I just realized I didn't really buy anything like that. So I was like, oh, I don't want to like, that's the problem. Just like put it in and
Yeah. Oh, you're good. Just take, do you guys have your legal form?
No.
Oh, man. Right.
oh, the one of the, oh, I actually have one. Yeah.
Okay, so, do you guys have Sharpie?
Yeah, I
You can also borrow mine if you want.
yeah, yeah.
Write it really boldly, because otherwise we're not going to be like, so, like, write your last name real big.
Yeah, just kind of.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I don't know how long do I have to do that, but you have an amendment to look at. Okay.
I'm willing to change the wording.
You got it.
First one we'll talk about. No, not. I'm not buying that. I like the back one.
Oh, so it might have been the one that. Can you read it back? I'm sorry. Because I know that there was a request that went through.
Yeah, he is very
I'm not sure.
I like the second one. Like I said, the first one might be hard to do because they've already
yeah, that's why, that second one. So,
I wouldn't even
shit out of luck. So I think they are. I'm gonna think about that. I would think about that. Maybe a quarter point, but definitely not good profile.
Alright guys, we are gonna get started. Can I get some attention here? We're gonna get started in a couple of minutes, like a minute or two, so I would request everyone to take their seats. Thank you so much.
Obviously, there's a ton of vacancies.
All right, everybody, I officially call this meeting into order at 4:07 p.m. We're going to get started with roll call here. Senator Swangood. Senator Swangood. Senator Bassett. Senator Patterson. Senator Patterson. Senator Hankey.
Here.
Senator Hashimoto.
Here.
Senator Chimizé.
Here.
Senator Carlson. Here. Senator Raja. Senator Roberts.
Here.
Senator Angie Demby. Senator Ang Demby. Senator T. Schaefer. Here. Senator Hawk. Here. Senator Basha. Senator Basha. Gopal. Senator Liebeck. Senator Liebeck. Senator Kruger. Here. Senator Wing.
Yes.
Senator Uzapa.
Here.
Senator Nowak.
Howdy.
Senator Flynn.
Here.
Senator Hopwood. Here. Senator Hussain. Here. Senator Reuter. Here. President Stiff. Here. Vice President Zawerso. Here. Speaker Khan. Here. All right. Before we move on with our next order of business, I just wanted to take the time to have a little bit of information out there since we have basically a very new Senate. When we are doing the roll call, I would like for you to raise your placard and say here. Next would be don't talk out of order because we want to keep this meeting very professional. We want to save the time of the administrators, other senators, and deans who join us in our meetings. So please, you have the option to have discussions when I open the floor for discussion, or I give you the floor to say anything about your opinions. But unless the meeting is going on, please don't have conversations in between the senators, just to be respectful of your own time and the others' time in the Senate meeting. Moving on to our next order of business, which is presentations. I have Rick Straka.
Good afternoon, Vice President. I'll try to talk slowly and try to enunciate through this mask as we go forward here. But today what I wanted to do is, at any time you have the attachment available, we can share that. I want to give a presentation that we're proposing a plan in order to give out the third round of stimulus money to students. So the HERF, Higher Education Relief Fund. And we gave out funds in the spring of 2020. We gave out funds last year when there was the second round, the CRISA Act came out. We gave funds there. And last year came out with the American Recovery Plan Act. And the university received an allocation of $13,050,951. And what we're doing here is to meet the intent of the language in the legislation. The intent is that we try to prioritize the most needy domestic undergraduate students. But on the other hand, this new legislation did open up eligibility to international students and DACA students. And so we have a way in which we need to document need for those students, so we'll do that. I'm not sure if we have the document to be able to share.
We're trying to pull it up right now.
Okay.
He'll get screen sharing for the presentation.
So I'll go forward for a little bit. I can get to the specifics when we do this, but what we're really looking at is two different types of ways to distribute the money. For those students who filed FAFSAs and who showed estimated family contribution and showed need, we're the first group that we're looking at is Pell eligible students who've received the Pell. And those students, what we're recommending, that's about 2,411 students. We're recommending that we would allocate an award of $3,000 for every student for pandemic relief. The next area we're looking at would be undergraduate Pell eligible EFC but did not receive a Pell disbursement this fall. We have about 382 students in that category. We're looking at $2,400 that we would award to students in that category. To graduate Pell eligible students who did not receive a Pell, we're looking at 509 graduate students in that category, and we're looking at an award of $1,600. For undergraduate non-Pell EFC, but they have an estimated family contribution between 5847 and 12,000, and they're still showing need after whatever aid they've received. If we have about 1,100 students in that category, we're recommending an award of $1,900. We're looking at graduate Pell EFC, again, above that Pell of 5847 to 12,000 and still show need. And then we have 149 students in that category. We're recommending an award of $1,275. So for the automatic awards, we're looking at approximately 4,550 students for a total award of $11,244,175. We needed to take at least 5% of the award, which would have been $652,000. We needed to keep at least 5% for emergency grants. But as we've opened up this, the eligibility for students to show need, there are students who do not put in FAFSAs. There are domestic students who, for whatever reason, do not fill out a FAFSA. Our international students do not fill out a FAFSA. Our DACA students right now don't fill out a FAFSA. So the way for them to show need would be through an application-based emergency grant program. So we're looking at increasing almost 3 times of what we needed to as a minimum to recognize the diversity of our student population and the size of our international student body and others. That will, looking right now, setting aside $1.8 million for an emergency grant process. So that would give us the total of $13,050,000. We are looking at a one-time allocation. We want to get the money out to students this fall. And so we're not looking at breaking this out. Some of the institutions are doing a fall allocation and a spring allocation. We'd like to get the money out to the students as soon as we can. And so as we look at this again, I'll open it up for questions, but this is a somewhat similar breakdown to what we did with the CRISA money and with the CARES money before it. But we're putting more money aside for emergency grants to recognize that we have international students and other students and an opportunity for them to show their need. There may be something that has happened in a family situation that is beyond FAFSA. And so the emergency grant application process would be the way to do that. What we do foresee now is that people who get awards in the top categories here would not be eligible for additional emergency grants. We would hold those emergency grants for other people to show their need. And we're expecting at this point in time, we're proposing that we cap those emergency grants at $1,000 per student. So I'll just open it up for any questions that any of the senators may have about what we're proposing. And then as you're thinking about questions here, just to give you a little process issue, we have student consultation here. The cabinet has looked at this and is comfortable with this program. Then we would need to forward this to the chancellor's office, and the chancellor would then approve us to move forward with it. If everything went well, we would hope to make disbursements in early October. And I don't have for sure a timeline on the emergency grant application. Part of how long it will take us to get through that application process is how many we have. Understanding that $1.8 million divided by 1,000 would be about 1,800 applicants, and those will all have to be reviewed individually. That's going to be a very manual process, but we think it's important that we have a process that gives people, other than just showing EFC through the FAFSA, gives them a way to demonstrate pandemic need. I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Vice President Straka. I am going to start with Senator Saha.
I have a quick question. Did we already create an application process for DACA and international students?
We will, that's what we're going to do. I think we'll use something very similar to what we did the last round. I think we'll just have to tweak our application a little bit, but it'll be a very similar process. So I don't think it will be uniquely for DACA and international students. It will be for DACA, international students, and anyone else who can show need that wasn't covered under the automatic reports.
A follow-up question to that. Who is reviewing those applications? Is there any student participation in that as well?
No, there isn't. We're expecting that we would look at the financial aid office primarily, but we have worked with the International Student Office and Kearney Center to determine how we together will determine whether there's need for an international student.
All right, now we have Senator Flynn.
So just to clarify, the emergency grants are not open to those who receive the automatic payments?
That is correct. That is our proposal.
Okay, and in the emergency grant process, I know there were some other changes in the law. How would the standard for requiring the student to be informed of the professional judgment process for financial aid be met?
That's a separate process that we'll be sending out. What we have are required under the act to provide is send out to students notification that please be aware that if you have had a change to your family situation, that you think the tax documents and FAFSA process does not currently reflect your need, and there's a change in your financial situation, that you have the ability to come into the financial aid office and ask for a special circumstance review of your financial aid. We are looking at exactly how we'll do that notification, looking both at hard copy notification as well as email notification to all students for that. Good question, thank you.
Senator Nowak?
This is related more specifically to the emergency grant application. How will that be publicized and brought out to allow people to know that this is an option that they can apply for?
At a minimum, it will go out to every student. It will go out to all students in an email, at a minimum via email.
Senator Carlson?
So balancing out the question you asked about who's involved in it, I guess, would you consider, because a lot of students are out of jobs last year, would that be considered being able to apply? And because I mean, a lot of kids lost so much money and then they couldn't get money from the government for unemployment because they're a college student.
I believe, loss of income or ability to have income is certainly going to be one of the things we would expect to see, that it is a pandemic related. There may be pandemic related additional expenses, or it may be loss of income due to the employment situation of you as a student or your family. So either of those things we would be looking at. We just want you to be able to document that process in the application. And we'll give prompts, I think, for some of those things.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly.
Senator Roberts?
Thank you. Senator Carlson answered the first half of my question. The other question, or part of the question I have is this HERF funding going to be automatically distributed?
Yes, it is going to be automatically distributed. So we would ask that people, if you don't have a direct deposit set up, we would ask you to please do that. One of the instances is we spent a lot of time over this past year trying to follow up on checks that we sent to students that remained uncashed. And so we're still following up on that. The best way to get this done is to get direct deposit. There is an option within the legislation that would ask us to ask the student whether you wanted the funds to apply to charges on your bill. I don't think we're going to do that to the 4,500 students of automatic payment. We will just send those funds out, because that would be another very manual process that would take a lot of time for you to determine. And in my opinion, if a student was wanting to pay their bill, they'll likely pay their bill when they get the funds. And if you didn't want to pay the bill, you probably wouldn't give us the authority to take your charges. So that is a more efficient way, we believe, but we will be asking in the application process, because we're already touching those, we will be asking students whether they'd allow us to just pay off their charges and get a check for the difference. Very good question, thank you.
Senator Usafa?
Yeah, so my question is on the emergency grant application. So
Yes.
what criteria and requirements will be there to select the student that can become?
Well, we'll be looking at documentation again. How are you documenting, or how are you saying that the pandemic affected your ability to either earn income or our additional expenses? So what were the financial impacts to you or your family that impact that and required you to get some additional funding? So again, the additional step we'll have with international students is a follow-up at the Carney Center. Because there are, since international students don't fill out a FAFSA, and one of the actual requirements in board policy is that international students show that they have the financial ability to pay all their bills before they're even admitted to the university. We have to then follow up and say, what are the unique circumstances that have happened since your admission to the university that changed your ability to pay, because there was an attestation coming in that you had to show the financial ability to be here. So we'll follow up with coordinating on that. We'll work out the final details on how to do
Senator
that.
Paul?
I have two questions.
Certainly.
So the first one would be, if a student has already gotten any form of grant, will they be eligible for it? Or like, it might not be, if it's international student getting some form of maybe an international grant or something like that, but still have.
Yes, people will still be eligible. The only people who won't be eligible for the emergency grant process are the 4,500 and 4,551 students who receive an direct award, automatic award. But any other university funding, emergency grants, scholarships, or so forth, won't affect your ability to access the emergency grants.
So my other question would be, for the emergency grants, if they're an international student or even somebody who's not doing anything for a FAFSA, will a graduate student be also be able to apply for the emergency grant?
Yes, any student will be able to apply for the
Okay.
emergency grant. Again, other than the 4,551 who receive an automatic award.
Okay.
Other people can apply, they'll have to document what their pandemic-based need is. How the pandemic, that is a fundamental underpinning of all of this funding, is that you need to document how the pandemic created the need.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Senator Stahl?
Like for targeting the DACA students, like how would that be specified or like spelled out, and like where can they find resources to actually document that and file that?
Again, what they'll have to document is how the pandemic has caused their financial need. This isn't an overall just I have financial need program. It is a program that is based on what related to the pandemic has changed your financial need. So the concentration needs to be on that.
Senator Roberts?
Thank you. Kind of going on that question of international students, would you say that because of this application, could these international students be threatened on that attestation aspect of ability to stay at this university? And do you think that that would potentially have risks to their visas?
No, I don't think that's what we're going to use the information for. We're going to use the information for whether they're going to be eligible for some additional financial help. That's all we're really looking at to use that information for.
Okay.
Yep. So the financial attestation that starts is at the admissions point. That's where we look at that attestation and saying that the student has to show that they have the financial ability to pay. After that, it's just a matter of are they able to keep up with their bills here and meet all of the, where does your balance have to be to register for the next semester?
Senator Flynn?
I just wanted to clarify, when you say only the 4551 are ineligible, I imagine for the emergency grant, also those with the tuition paid for by the university itself would not be qualified, is that correct? Like the employee benefit or the senior citizen?
Let me double check on the third-party payment. I will have to follow up on that. There may be restrictions for people who have their bills paid by third parties. Sorry, there's been 3 of these bills now, and I'm trying to remember what, I didn't get prepared for that point, but I can follow up with that point.
Thank you.
So it may be that, yes, if you have an employee tuition waiver, you may not be eligible for the state. That was the case in the first 2 rounds. So good point, thank you for that clarification.
All right. Do we have any other questions? Any other questions? Any other questions? Seeing as no further questions, thank you so much for answering these
Yes.
questions and
Thank
coming
you
in
for having me
today.
today. I appreciate the opportunity to present. Thanks.
All right, moving on to our next order of business, which is open forum. Do I have someone for open forum today? Anyone for open forum? Mr. Cowan.
Madam Speaker, Senators, I promised the student leadership that we would give you periodic updates on the ridership of your program, the Bird Scooter program. 22 days as of just a few minutes ago, we had 4,534 rides. So that's a success in my book. One of those rides is me, by the way.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Cowan? Any questions? Any questions? He has no questions. Thank you so much, Mr. Cowan, for the update. We really appreciate it. Do we have anyone else for open forum? Mark Constantine?
By the way, I haven't been one of the people that have written David hasn't offered me a ride yet. He promised me a one-time pay for mine, but I haven't seen that yet. So last week you had so many people for open forum, I chose to pause and not go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Mark Constantine. I work here in the CSU, part of the operations and the student activities. And mainly I wanted to say welcome to the new folks. Some of the other people have heard me talk before, but we've got a lot of new faces around the room, and we want to make sure you as senators know that we consider the CSU your home away from home. We're here to do anything we can do for you to help you along the way. We hope you're comfortable in this building and you're part of the process. We have a student union board that some of you might know about. That's a group of students that work with myself and my staff in order to try to improve the building in many different ways. I'll bring things in front of the student union board, and the student union board will have some things to offer us as well. We are still looking for some new people on that. I know the leadership has gone ahead and appointed some people, but we usually like to have probably between 7 and 9 people on that board, and we can still use some more people. And it doesn't, I'm not bringing it up to you as senators only, but you have a lot of friends and people out there. We look for a nice breadth of students to be part of the board as well. So I want to make sure you have a plug for the union board. But more than anything, I just wanted to say hello and welcome the new folks and let you know that if there's anything I can do for you, me or my staff in the building, and part of my staff as well as the student activities team, which does a lot of the programming, community service, and student events team, and all those type of things. John's part of that staff as well. We're here to help you in any way we can. I'll stand for any questions you might have.
All right, President Stiff. Thank you for coming in, Mark. Can you speak a little bit about SAC as well, just so we can plug that to senators?
Yeah, thank you. I sort of had that written, but I wasn't sure how much I want to talk. So I'm also one of the advisors for the Student Allocations Committee. Myself and Teresa Schwartz, who's our building manager of the building, advise that group. And I'm glad Rihanna said that, because we're looking for some additional students for that. On SAC, we allow by bylaws and governance up to 9 students that are on that, and only 3 can be senators. So if any of you are interested as a senator representative, you can talk to your leadership, and they can make an assignment as they so choose to do that. But we are looking for a lot of other students that are committed and want to work with the financial budget process. The 2 main things that we do throughout the year, you'll see on your agenda last week, and you'll see again this week, the Student Allocations Committee will look at travel and programming requests that your fellow RSOs have that will present to us. Teresa gets those online, and then we bring those to the Student Allocations Committee to decide whether or not we allocate money. And the travel requests are for student organizations that are going places, for registration, for travel, those type of things. Doesn't pay for food. And then the programming requests are to help up to $500 a year per organization to help go towards an event you might be doing. We were working with Avi today on one of the requests that he had put in along the way. So the primary things, travel and the programming funds. And then the other big thing that the Student Allocation Committee does is really take care of the whole budget process for the year. We have a number of organizations that get money, meaning the student government is one of those as well, multicultural affairs, campus recreation, on and on and on. They'll make presentations to the Student Allocations Committee in January about their budgets, and then the Allocations Committee will have a big powwow, usually for an entire day almost, to go ahead and make recommendations back to this board that you make the final decisions on what those budgets will be like for the future. And we'll get into that as we go out through the year. You'll see some more of those numbers when you get into your training. I mean, your leadership will do that as well. But that's the two main things that the allocations, but it really is a really important position. Money is important to people. What we do in the future is an important position to be in. So look for some of your fellow friends that you think are committed. We meet typically once a week for an hour. Is all. We try to come up with time. Typically they've been on Friday mornings because there's a few less classes on Fridays. But we'll look at people's schedules and make a decision from there. And then in the spring semester, when those budget hearings are going on, we actually meet for 3 hours typically. 2 of the hours will be doing presentations, and the other hour will be taking care of our regular normal business as well. So hopefully that'll help you give it an idea, but thank you for bringing that forward. Really important committee for us.
Vice President Russo?
Yeah, I just want to make a plug. I know, as he says, like 3 hours weekly, you're like, oh wait, I don't want to join that committee. But this is one of the most important committees, and it really gets to the cornerstone of some of student government's most monumental work is passing this budget. So I would highly recommend that you guys consider joining because it's a pretty big deal.
And the 3 hours are only for a 6-week time period, just to let you know. Usually at the beginning of January, when we get into those presentations, then we go back to our 1 hour a week as well.
Mark, do you bring them donuts or anything?
In fact, that's a great plug. Actually, when we have our big budget presentation, the one you'll do for the whole week, we do have a beautiful lunch that we give you for that day. And we have some special surprises. Usually at the end of the semester, we have a little bagels and some fruit, some of those type of things to say thank you to the community as well. Obviously, we're very fiscally conservative, so we want to make sure we're not spending too much of the student money on food, but we think it's important to give back to the students as well. I'm around the building a lot. If you stop me in the hall, wherever, my office is in the back corner in 220, anything that I can do for you along the way, we want to be here for the students.
All right, thank you. Do we have any other questions? Any other questions? Any other questions? Seeing as no further questions, thank you for coming in, Mark. Do we have anyone else for open forum today? You can take the stand. I'm sorry, I don't.
That's okay. I'm going to introduce myself so that you'll know my name.
Sounds great.
I'm the Director of Security here at the University. Like Mark, I wanted to take an opportunity to welcome all of you to the student government. You will see me attending most of your meetings. Just wanting you guys to know that we're here for you. My department is in charge of providing the safe and secure environment here at the university so that you can carry on the work that you do so students can learn in a safe environment. We do the parking enforcement. We have a safe walk program. We're in charge of the card access cameras and keys for the university. We have an EMT program, so you'll see students working nights, weekends to provide emergency medical services, as well as my staff being trained to respond to those kind of calls. We patrol the buildings and the parking lots to respond to calls for service and hopefully prevent and deter crime on our campus. So anything that you guys need at all from security, please let us know. We're always here at your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions? Any questions? Any questions? I would just like to ask you to say your name and position one more time.
You got it, Sandy with an I, so S-A-N-D-I, and it's Schnorrenberg, I'll spell that because it's really long, S-C-H-N-O-R-E-N-B-E-R-G, I had to think a minute, and I am the director.
Sounds great. Thank you for coming in today. Do we have anyone else for open forum? Anyone for open forum? Anyone for open forum? I'm just going to take a quick look at the Zoom. All right, looks like we have covered everyone for open forum today, so we're going to move on to our next order of business, which is approval of consent agenda. We have a last-minute request. Since it is time sensitive, I am going to allow this request to get on the approval of consent agenda just this last time. This is going to be the only time we're going to do it and the last time we're going to do it. Just an announcement that if you would like something to be on the approval of consent agenda, please work around to make sure that we get it, that I get it every Tuesday by noon, because that is going to be the deadline if you would like to be on presentations, if you need something to be on the approval of consent agenda. We're going to add one last thing to our approval of consent agenda. So everything that was already sent out to all the senators and administration. Other than that, I'm going to announce this last item we have. It is recommend allocating SAF funding up to $200 to assist Sigma Chi promote nationally recognized speaker, presenter Nate Cannon in Ostrander Auditorium on August 6, 2021 from 1 to 4 p.m. This event will be held during Mental Health Awareness Week. SAF funding may be used to purchase reception snacks, food up to S100. I'm assuming it's $100 for this specific event, as it was deemed as essential to the success of the event. Food must be purchased in accordance with university policy. It is further recommended that up to $100 may be used for printed material to promote this event. All right, and was everyone able to make sense, or would you like for me to? Yes, Senator Hawk.
The date you said was August 26, 2021.
It's October 6, 2021. Senator Roberts?
You mind just reading that off one more time?
Yes, and I can share the screen on my Senator Chimsey.
You said a deadline for
Deadline?
Yes. I thought it was 7:30.
So what to be on the consent
For presentations, it's going to be every Tuesday by noon for the presentations and anything agenda related and anything that needs to go on student government meetings.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Give me 1 second here. I am going to share my screen. All right. It's recommend allocating SAF funding up to $200 to assist Sigma Chi promote nationally recognized speaker presenter Nate Cannon in Ostrander Auditorium on October 6, 2021 from 1 to 4 p.m. This event will be held during the Mental Health Awareness Week. Staff funding may be used to purchase reception snack food up to $100 for this specific event, as it was deemed essential to the success of the event. Food must be purchased in accordance with university policy. It is further recommended that up to $100 may be used for the printed material to promote this event. Mark?
I thought this is a perfect time to talk about, when I was talking about SAC, this is the example, we talked about this last week, this is the example what SAC will typically be looking at during our meetings and to make those presentations back. At this point in time, because we don't have an active SAC, Teresa Schwartz and I are the two people that review these and then bring them forward to this group. But just a good example for you all, this is exactly what one of the things that the SAC will be doing.
Senator Roberts?
May I ask a question? What exactly are they doing in terms of mental health?
I'm gonna have Senator Saha answer that question because he is the one conducting the whole event.
I will actually answer this question. I'm actually leading up front with this whole event. So we are planning throughout the whole week from October 4th to the 7th to actually host different events throughout the different days. On the first day, we are planning to actually show a demonstration of how many students actually, U.S. college students, commit suicide, cause depression, and mental health issues. So we are planning to do like a by the map mall, which is right by the fountain, setting up chairs to show the number of lost lives, as well as showing a demonstration of showing what prevention we can do, as well as portraying that on TVs and stuff like that. We'll have a booth as well from the counseling center to talk more about it. On the second day, we are planning to do therapy dogs to actually engage more students and have a little food down there and to promote healthy eating habits. For personally, I believe a lot of mental health issues stems through food and housing insecurities. So that's one way to promote that. On Wednesday, we'll have speaker Nate Cannon come to Ostrander and have a little speed interaction with the students and the community. And we'll also have people from the counseling center to talk about their resources as well. On the Thursday, which is the 7th, we'll have depression screening camps set up across campus, and they will actually, in a discreet manner, assist them in screening that, and we'll provide resources for them to direct in the right direction. And throughout the whole week and a few days after as well, we're also doing a food and clothes drive, which everything on the food will be donated to Maverick Food Pantry, and the clothing we haven't yet decided where we are actually going to donate it. Does that answer the question?
Thank you for answering that. Just a reminder to all the senators to use proper motion when you're asking. So point of information, if you would like some more information on a motion or anything on the consent agenda. All right, do we have any other questions? Senator Hashimoto?
Yes, so I just wanted to clarify if there are any a criteria or allocation that we need to review, or it just completely after the process of the senators.
I would yield to Mark to answer this question for you. Or John.
Great question, Senator Hashimoto. The question was, are there any criteria that need to be reviewed by the Senate before approving something like this? The process is very cleared out by the SAC guidelines, which the Student Allocations Committee and their advisors assure are being held to. So if the recommendation comes to the Senate and appears on the consent agenda, it is their opinion that it meets the criteria and should be good to go.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Senator Flynn?
After the meeting, is there any way we can get an updated set of minutes for the meeting with this motion included on it?
Yeah, I can definitely forward that out again.
The presentation from RTP struck it as well.
Yes. Is there any other questions? Any other questions? Any other questions? Seeing as no further questions, I am gonna ask, is there any dissent on the approval of consent agenda?
Madam Speaker, abstention.
Yeah. All right. Is there any dissent on the approval of consent agenda? Any dissent? Any dissent? Seeing as no dissent, the approval of consent agenda is approved. Moving on to our next order of business, which is officer reports. I'm going to start with President Stiff.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Senate. The first thing I have for you this week is that we are still looking for students who would like to serve on the Student Success Roundtable. We're looking for a graduate student for this, so it doesn't necessarily have to be our graduate senators, but if you know a graduate student who would like to contribute to this committee, you can let me know and I can go ahead and appoint them. We are also looking for one student graduate or undergraduate for planning some meet and confer. Thank you to all the senators who came to the Johnson Alumni Room last night to the volleyball invite. Speaker Khan will expand on this a little bit more, but I just want to thank everyone who showed up for that. Committees, all committees, as far as student affairs and academic affairs, will be meeting next week. And so you might see some appointments this week on the consent agenda for that. So make sure that you're free from 3 to 6, so 3 to 4 for committee and then 4 to 6 for Senate next week. Again, this will be next Wednesday and all of the following Wednesdays after that. And as a senator, this is one of your requirements to attend either student affairs or academic affairs. I will let you know which one you will be going to. It depends, again, academic senators, so College of Business, College of Allied Health and Nursing, College of Education, you guys will be going to academic affairs, and then Res Life and off-campus senators, you will be going to student affairs. Now is the time to start working on your projects. So now that you are elected senators, you can go ahead and take off on those projects. Again, we'll expand more in a little bit about the project proposal form. But again, as a senator, this is your duty to have a project this year, work on it. There is no floating, there is no just chilling for 2 weeks in the semester. We understand mental health is important, so if you need time off or if you need time to rest, let me and Vice President Sprizzle know. We will definitely take that into consideration. But now is the time to start working on that. Your office hours will be due in about a week and a half. Again, possibly Speaker Khan could expand on that. So what you're doing in your projects will really shine through in your senator reports and in your office hours. I've made some corrections again to the form, the proposal form for your projects. So that should be open to everyone now. I know some people contacted me saying there were some issues with the link, so it should be open to everyone now. And I think that's all I have for the week.
Awesome. Senator Nowak have a question?
Yes, point of information, would you be so kind as to give us a review on where the academic and student affairs meetings will be being held?
Yes, okay, so we actually have rooms booked for that. I'll have to check again with our office manager, Amber, but there are 2 rooms that you'll meet in the same room every single week for academic or student affairs. But thank you, Senator Novak. I will follow up with you all on which rooms those will be.
Do we have any other questions? Any questions? Any questions? Seeing as no questions, I am going to move on to the next officer report. Vice President Sawerso.
Hello guys, so I'm going to try and read my own notes here and make sure I don't miss anything, but that's a little bit of a struggle. Okay, the first thing I wanted to talk about was me and President Stiff went to the IFO meeting the other day. For reference, the IFO / faculty association is essentially like the faculty union. And so they meet, I'm not sure how often.
Me neither.
I don't know. They meet and they talk about faculty issues. And so we were able to get on their agenda, and we spent a significant amount of time talking about OERs. So that's those open educational resources, essentially the free or low cost textbooks. So we talked a lot about our personal experiences with textbooks and pathways to more affordable textbooks and stuff like that. And that seemed to go really well. And then we also, of course, made a plug for the room and board support funds. So keep plugging with your professors about that. The next thing was we are moving forward on our Student Basic Needs Hub proposal. Dr. Jones brought up a great point today that we continue to call it the Hub, knowing that we already have a campus hub. So we're going to change the name. but the idea is gonna stay the same. And so what we're doing is we're working with some people to actually draft up a physical proposal. And just to give an idea of like the timeline on that, so we're gonna clean up the language on the proposal, and then we'll go to the departments that are directly involved and make sure we have them on board. And then we'll go to Student Basic Needs, our committee, and make sure everybody there is on board and work on language for a resolution. And then we'll pass the resolution. The resolution will go to cabinet, well, hopefully we'll pass the resolution. The resolution will go to cabinet, and that will force the discussion. So that's kind of how we get the ball moving on that. But we have an optimistic timeline, and we are moving forward on that. The next thing I want to talk about is about our social media. So this is more aimed at like the administrators and other people in the room, but we made a post this past week. I made one, I think President Stiff and Speaker Connor are gonna make one as well. It was like a day in the life video, kind of walking through our timeline of what we get done or what we work towards every day. And I think it's just a good point of reference to kind of remind staff and faculty and administrators, everyone, just kind of the balance and the pressures that we're under as students who are also involved, like all of you guys are. And so I would just, kind of highlight that to bring some perspective back about the workload that we balance. So, yeah, something to check out. That's on our Instagram. Everyone should be following that. So let's hope for that. If you guys are going to be absent for a meeting, if you are not able to make it, just a reminder that we ask for a proxy. Is everybody clear on what a proxy is? Oh, President Stiff's unclear. Okay, a proxy is someone that you would send to the meeting in your place. And so we would ask that it would be someone who is in the group of students that you represent. But at the end of the day, we have no way of knowing. So we'd rather have someone here than no one, but ideally make it be of the constituent group you recommend or represent. And just a quick reminder to Senators Collins, Hopwood, and T. Schaefer that we were going to talk quickly after the meeting to make sure we're on the same page about projects and stuff. Nothing bad. That sounds more ominous than I meant it to be. Yeah, that's everything I have. Are there any questions?
Is there any questions for Vice President Saverso? Any questions? Any questions? Senator Osmond.
Question. So what happened if you miss like too many meetings?
So if there's like a pattern that's kind of established, what will happen is then we'll go to Ethics and Standards, which is kind of our formal committee that reviews those kind of complaints and issues to make sure that senators are doing their job, to make sure that those constituencies are being represented. So Ethics and Standards, to answer your question.
Senator Carlson.
When you were talking about the student basic needs called
Yeah.
are you talking about like building a whole brand new building specifically for this, or looking for a part of a building that's not being used already?
We are leaning towards option number 2. And so we have some spaces identified, but that, I don't want to reveal our hand too much, but I will say we're looking at some spaces that could be better used to do what we're trying to do. And so to encapsulate all those services and make a more efficient way of delivering those services, and then add the case manager social work compartment to it that ensures that we can really address a student's need long-term and ensure that we're addressing all of their needs in a more efficient manner. So yes, we are talking about a physical building. We're not necessarily talking about building a building. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Senator Hawk.
Just bouncing on what Senator Osmond had said. How many, like, is there like specific criteria which you would prefer, like, to go to the ethics and ethics committee? Number of meetings they might have missed or something like that, if it's like 2 or 3, or some things which might be putting into idea for everyone that's in here, so they would know about the more guidelines that's present?
So that's not my discretion. That would be to the speaker. So I would yield to you, but what I would say traditionally is that, like, if the more that you can communicate with us, the better. And so if something comes up, we understand that. It's when senators kind of like ghost us and go missing and we're like, oh, okay, they've been gone 3 meetings in a row, what's happening? That's kind of more when we want to take more action in that way. I don't know.
Yeah, so I was gonna touch bases on 24 hours notice in my report, but I will just talk about it now. We expect you to be present on all the meetings. This is an expectation for you as a senator and something that you signed up for. We understand that you are a student, we are students, we have to work through our school, full-time students. Some of us has full-time jobs, and then this is our other responsibility that we sign up for. So I would totally understand if you have an emergency, but I would like for you to give me a 24-hour notice that you are going to be not present at the meeting and have a proxy. The reason behind having a proxy is you hold a seat which represents a large amount of students. You are representing your whole school. Sometimes you're representing your whole community. So we want to make sure that if there is something that we're approving in the agenda, or if there is a presenter where your people, the students you're representing would have a concern, someone on your seat has the opportunity to ask the question or vote for or against it. So that's the reason behind having a proxy. In the start of the semester, I was very flexible with people not being able to make it to the meetings because we were still adjusting into the semester. We were still figuring out how things goes. But moving on, I would like all of us to be responsible with the 24-hour notice and with the proxy. And we just want to have you more involved in the Senate, is the short answer. Is there any more questions? Any other questions? Any other questions? Seeing as no further questions, we're going to move on to the next officer report of the day, which is my report. As I'm hoping all of you would have seen, we have added you to the Teams folder, which is Teams, if you don't already know about it, school's website, where it's Outlook. When you go into that waffle, there is a whole bunch of other apps. One of them is Teams. Teams is where we keep all our documents. You can find out the agendas. You can find out all the related documents that would concern you as a senator. And we do our some of the formal communication on that channel. All of you were added to that team last week. It's called Student Government Team 2021, I believe. I would request all of you to go ahead and fill out your contact information, so your emails. Some of you still, me, President and Vice President, we have been going through the list of emails that we have gotten just to make sure that we're in touch with all of you. But I still have several senators who have their Gmails on file and who have emails from, let's say, Winona State University. So I would really appreciate if you can update your emails to MSU emails. I don't mind sending the agenda out to your Gmail, but it would just be better for you to have your school email on file and getting the agenda on your school email, because you already check your school email for classes and work, if you work on campus. So please update your contact information on the Teams. Next thing is office hours clarification. We are starting office hours. It will be due on the Friday of next week, which is October 1st by noon. The form is not yet started, and you don't have to worry about it, because once the form is created, it's just not published to everyone at this point. You have time, don't worry about it. I will send out an email once it's all published to everyone. And I will send out, if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer those through my email. It's going to be simple and easy. There's going to be a demo of how to fill out those forms, and Some of the senators had questions about, you guys came in and represented student government at the football game. Yes, that counts as your office hour. Some of you guys came last night to the volleyball game where we got to have a social with SAG. It was a lot of fun, and you represented student government. Yes, that counts as your office hours. And then anything that you're doing student government related, let's say you're working on your projects, you're meeting with your dean, that counts as your office hours. Once again, they will be due bi-weekly. On the Friday on noon, your very first office hours are due on October 1st. And I will send out the link once it's all published out. Next thing I have is 2 committees. Just to clarify again on that, all the senators are required to join 2 committees. One of the committees is, of course, your, if you're an academic senator, it's going to be your academic affairs committee, and the other one is going to be the student affairs committee if you are, let's say, an off-campus or a res life senator. The other committee, you get to choose on what you're more interested in. You can choose SAC. Mark will be really happy with that. You can choose any other committees that you are interested in and passionate about. Fill out the applications that we have already sent out to you, I believe, several times. So fill out those applications to get on the committees. 2 is a requirement. You can get on as many committees as you like. Next thing, if you still did not receive the agenda, I highly request you to please come and see me after the meeting and make sure that you give me your working email. I'm really hoping that everyone got it. And then to touch a little bit again on the volleyball, it was a success. We had a great time with SAC, President Stiv, and I had a chance to introduce student government, talk about what we do. I think everyone in that room was really involved, looking to make connections and talk about what we can do on campus as a leader, as a student leader, which was really inspiring. A very important campaign that SAC is doing is the mental health awareness campaign, where we are going to be giving out the Band-Aids and the book tags to put on your bags. I believe President Stiff is going to hand these out. We all got it. Me and President Stiff got it. We have them on our bags. It's just to show support to the mental health. And then I believe very strongly in the importance of mental health, and I would like to collaborate more with RSOs like SAC, where they are doing something good for students. So we showed interest that we would like to collaborate more on campaigns like that. And this is also, since this goes live on YouTube and we have so many big people coming in here, if there is another student organization that is doing something good for students and would like to collaborate with student government, please reach out to us. We would love to collaborate with you on this, and we would love to just be more involved with more student organizations on campus. Next is, I wanted to start one new thing. We're all students, we're all working hard, we are all taking so many classes, getting out of the COVID, not getting out, but like getting back to normal. We're all trying very hard. So I wanted to start a new thing on my report every week, which would be Spotlight a Leader. It would be for the exec team and all the senators, even people from the committee, someone who is putting the hard work and really doing a good job at it. So I wanted to start with Vice President Saversal. She has done a remarkable job at her position, very professionally, managed all her school, work, and student government very nicely and professionally, and she has inspired all of us. So just a moment to recognize her. And if you're interested, please work hard so that you can be on the spotlight of leader. The last thing, finally, I have Dean of the Day. Do we have Dean Brown here today? We don't.
Yeah, I am actually standing up for Chris Brown, Dr. Chris Brown, who is the Dean of Arts and Humanities.
All right, would you like to come and speak?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Dahlman. I am the Interim Associate Provost and Dean of Global Education. And I represent the Council of Deans. Every week you will have a dean here. So if you go on the university website and put in the search box, Council of Deans, you will see all our reps there. So I am responsible as the Dean of Global Education. I am responsible for all operations dealing with global. So international students, their well-being, success, study abroad, all the faculty initiatives dealing with travel and curriculum that focuses on global. I'm also responsible for the strategy for a university, for international affairs and partner universities. As the Associate Provost, I collaborate with Provost Martinson on all aspects of our academic affairs. Budget, I oversee a large budget for academic affairs and advise the Provost on budget decisions. If you are interested in a project that deals with international students, please let me know. I would love to support you. I know there are a lot of international students on this council. I cannot be more proud. And as a council, I think you nicely model how we come together as a campus to do our work. And if you have ideas for how we can do this in our regular lives, where students from different populations come together, please help us do that, because often it's not the case in the campus and doesn't always happen naturally. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Other than that, we're just listening here every time. We just listen and learn and want to support you.
Awesome, thank you. I will start with Senator Hawk.
My question was actually to you.
All right, I'll first take questions for Dean Dahlman. Is there any questions for Dean Dahlman? Senator Hashimoto?
Dean Dahlman, thank you so much for your presentation. And I just wanted to clarify, I think when I was filling out the application for the committees, I think there's a committee for the global education also. Is it going to be for sometime soon or?
Is it a student government?
I think there's a separate committee for global education, if I have not.
Maybe if it's outside student government, if you just email me, we'll figure it out.
Okay, thank you so much.
Is there any other questions for Dean Dahlman? Any other questions? Any questions? Seeing as no questions, thank you so much for coming in today. Before I move on, I will take the questions for me. Senator Hawk.
So if you represent student government in any other RSOs, does that count as officers? For like example, if we go to the engineering club and try to represent there and try to get some people to join the committees or let them know about us, does that count as officers as well? Or is it just the events that student government is going to be a part of is going to count as officers?
If you inform me before you're going to be attending this meeting and tell me that what you're going to talk about, if it's related to the vacancies that we have available, I would be more than happy to count that as an office hour. Senator Saha.
I would like to throw in a plug for like the Mental Health Awareness Week that's going to happen in a couple of weeks. I see President Stiff, Vice President Serviceau, and Speaker Khan is really involved in that. So like, you know, I would definitely seek volunteers opportunities if that's an way we can put student government as well as like, issues that college students face in mental health together, and probably like, count that as an office hour or show our support to our student bodies that we are there for them. That would be really helpful.
Yes, I will count that as an office hour. I will just need to have a little bit of clarification every time before you do one of these events. Just like leave me a very simple email of we're going to be going to this event or an opportunity, and this is how long you're going to be working on, and this is what you're going to do, just to make sure that I know what you're going to be talking about or doing at this event, and I would be more than happy to count that as an office hour. Vice President Seversal.
I have one question then, just like one point of clarification. So my question was, are you gonna count the trainings that we did after Senate as office hours?
Yes.
Cool. So you guys can all put that down.
That would be your, I believe we did it for an hour.
Yeah, plus if they were the original, they've already done some as well.
Right, yeah, so that would be your, if you were already here for the first training and then again for the second training, you would have 2 office hours, and then for the new senators, it will be 1 office hour. For the first time, I'm gonna count office hour which has been previously done, but moving on, it's gonna be a bi-weekly thing. So every 2 weeks, you're gonna be doing new office hours, and it's gonna be 6 in total, 3 each week. Is there any other questions?
I just have a clarification quick.
Vice President Seversal?
There are 2 SACs, which can get really confusing. There is SAC, like the Student Advisory.
Allocation.
Yeah, okay, there's Student Athlete Advisory Committee. That was the one that you guys hung out with at volleyball. That's the one that's doing the mental health stuff. And then there's the Student Allocation Committee, and that's the, like, financial. That's the one Mark was talking about. It's just confusing because we call them both SAC and they're very different, so just to be clear.
Thank you.
And
Is
one
there
has
any
2
other?
A's and the other one has 1 A.
Is there any other questions? Any other questions? Any other questions? Seeing as no further questions, I am going to move on to the next order of business, which is senator reports. We do not have any senator reports for this week. Moving on to our next order of business, which is vacancies. We have 4 vacancies in total, starting with an off-campus senator, an other off-campus senator, a light health and nursing senator, and College of Education senator. I'm announcing these today, and we're going to be opening up this position from now on. You can go and fill out the application, and the election will be 2 weeks from now. So not the next meeting, but the meeting after that. So please encourage your fellow students or friends who you think would be a good fit for these positions to apply for them at InvolveU. Moving on to our next order of business, which is new business. We have a motion, off-campus housing accountability resolution, moved by President Stiff, seconded by Vice President Severso. President Stiff, would you like to talk on your motion?
Yes. So you guys all got this resolution in your email. It is, again, the off-campus housing accountability resolution. And this goes along with our campaign, basically, our campaign promises to kind of better off-campus housing to our ability and just go along with basic needs in general. And so I can read off the whereases and then be it further resolved. But before that, again, the intention behind this is just to do our part, basically, when it comes to students and off-campus housing managers. And so, again, I'm really happy to be moving this today. This has been something I've been interested in for a couple of years now, because we might have all had different not so great experiences with off-campus housing managers. So I will go ahead and start reading off the whereas clauses. So whereas off-campus housing properties advertise their units to students through housing fairs on the online database and the current off-campus housing website. Whereas students look to the university's leadership and guidance in all aspects of student life, including housing. Whereas because of the advertising relationship between the university, off-campus housing properties, and students, the university must do its part in holding the places that advertise through our channels accountable. Whereas there's a history of substandard treatment from off-campus housing properties towards student renters. Whereas students deserve to know the reality of potential housing properties they might be interested in. Whereas students are asked to sign additional leases for subsequent academic years a few years into your current leases. Whereas students often accept subpar management and living conditions due to financial restrictions. Whereas student basic needs encompasses safe housing. Whereas there have been reports of racism, slow responsiveness, unsafe living conditions, and unfair withholding of security deposits among off-campus housing properties. And whereas students need a site that encompasses renter education, complaint management, a rating and ranking system, and consequences for unprofessional property management, as the current website does not. Be it further resolved that the student government formally requests that the university convenes a commission, task force, or work group to run an RFP or request for proposal process investigating possible third-party sites that can build a student-centered off-campus housing website. Be it further resolved, this group will include no less than 3 student representatives to look at and develop recommendations to the university. Be it further resolved, Vice President of Student Affairs and Enrollment Management will identify a staff member to co-run the process of investigation. And lastly, be it further resolved that the student government formally requests that the student-centered off-campus housing website become a top university priority.
All right, I am gonna have Vice President Seversal talk on their second.
I would just like to say I stand with this motion, and I think it lays the groundwork for the process to make sure that we can get towards a website that can meet this accountability piece. And so President Sis, we're working really hard on this initiative, and I'll be proudly voting in its affirmation.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Senator Roberts, do you have a question?
I have a motion for amendment. The amendment is to add the line, be it further resolved that Minnesota State University Mankato in all off-campus advertisements contracts amend all future contracts to include a clause that states that advertising may be withheld if there are substantial claims of abuse requiring investigation.
All right, we are gonna move to discussion on the amendment of this motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Is there any questions on this amendment? All right, I'm gonna open the floor for discussion. Do we have any discussion points for this amendment? Senator Roberts?
I just wanted to explain why I believe this amendment is important. I think this amendment is important because of when we negotiate contracts between Minnesota State and property managers, that it should be acknowledged that they, if they are potentially putting risk to students in terms of the whereases that we've already stated in terms of the resolution, that they may lose that right to advertisement in the middle of that period if they come under investigation. I believe that's really important because who knows how long an investigation might take in terms of the resolution, and they deserve to, we deserve to be able to protect these students sooner rather than later.
Senator Flynn.
I love the idea of adding further teeth to this resolution, because money talks, and if we can force them to be responsive to issues that are brought up by students, either to us or through a website or whatever, that would be a great thing. And given that the experience of students in off-campus housing has kind of always been an interest of mine, that I love it. I love it.
Awesome. Senator Nowak?
This is very similar to what Pat Ettrick said about the teeth, which I completely understand with giving this bill a little bit more oomph to fight with. I think that it's very important to specify this this added aspect of like, this is what we're going to do and you guys fall under investigation, in order to further clarify, in order to make sure that the intentions of this bill are followed through, and that these off-campus housing spaces are not able to simply slip through the cracks.
President Stiff, point of clarification and kind of point of information. I wanted to clarify that with this housing, off-campus housing website, again, we would need a provision that allows for the accountability piece, because we could have a site that rates places, but where is the accountability in that, right? Because you could have a two-star rating and still be on the site. So I agree there needs to be a provision in which the off-campus site, or the off-campus complex is no longer on the site if they get repeated complaints or bad reviews.
Vice President Somerville. Point of clarification, we'll probably have to yield to the senator, but where in the motion would this amendment fall? Like after what line?
All right, I will yield to Senator Roberts.
Thank you. We would place this between, be it further resolved, the Vice President of Student Affairs and Enrollment Management will identify a staff member to co-run the process of investigation. And it would go in between that line and the bottom line. Be it further resolved, the student government formally asks that the student-centered off-campus housing website become a top university priority.
Awesome. Do we have any further points? Senator Carlson.
I just had a point of information. So, with this question, do these properties, do these properties pay for these advertisements? Because if they do, then are we just taking their right to pay? I mean, that might be an issue.
I am going to have President Stiff answer that question for you.
Yes, so with this resolution, this would be, again, a third-party site, and so they would sign a contract, again, detailing all the provisions in it. So if they do agree to sign a lease or sign a contract with the off-campus housing website, that would be determined between the contract. If they are taken off, what will happen after then. But chances are, if they do sign that contract, then they're okay with being taken off. Again, it'll have to be detailed in their contract.
Senator Carlson?
Sorry, just point of clarification.
Yeah.
So when you say the contract, the contract of them buying the advertisement?
President Stiff?
Yes.
Senator Hall?
So it's a point of information, clarification, if I can ask, is that what if there are like, we know there are like a lot of housing complexes here around Mankato. What if some of them did not sign up with the website, but there are a lot of students living there? Can students still put up, like go to the website and put some information about those housing places just to give some information to the students around campus?
All right, President Stiff?
So the likelihood that these, like you said, if there's a property that has a lot of students there, the likelihood is that they would want to sign with this company or whatever company the RFP process chooses at the end of it, because that is their face, that is their publicity, that is what they need to get more students to sign leases. So the chances are they would already kind of have to. But in that case that they decide not to, then we cannot guarantee that there will be a rating system for them on the site. But again, it would be a smart move for them to sign this contract.
All right, now someone from the gallery would like to speak. Can a senator or an exec yield to them?
I'll yield.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I just, a point of clarification, I want to make sure that as you're having this conversation, you get some good understanding of kind of boundaries associated with you and what the university can do, and not do. I heard reference to an investigation and such. That doesn't exist. So I want to make sure that there's clear understanding there. So when there are complaints brought forward to our knowledge, we make sure that is relayed to the apartment complex or the landowner, but there's not an investigation, because that's a contractual relationship between the tenant and the owner. So I want to be clear there, that doesn't exist. Okay. The second is, super thrilled about this resolution. it is the beginning of a process that you may want to make sure you're not forcing yourself into something that you can't deliver at the end of the day. This is the start of the exploration. So there's plenty of time over the next couple of months to refine that and put that in there. So just as you think through the whole process to make sure you're not putting something in there that you ultimately can't deliver. Because that's a reality, is we're putting in these restrictive things that you're considering. There may be no company interested in doing that, and then I'm not sure how that agrees with your resolution at that point in time. So it's just something to consider.
Thank you. I have Senator Roberts.
Thank you. I just want to respond to that in terms of, yes, we're not saying that, you know, your investigation or the investigation process exists right now, but already in the resolution itself, I want to point out clause, be it further resolved, the student government formally requests that the university convenes a commission, task force, or work group to run an RFP process investigating possible third parties. Also, I'd like to also reference the, I'm sorry, that's the wrong line, I apologize. Be it further resolved, Vice President of Student Affairs and Enrollment Management will identify a staff member to co-run the process of investigation. I want to specify that the fact that we would be adding investigation in there, and this is just further teeth to for that investigation process to matter a lot more.
Senator Carlson.
Going off what you said, when you first had brought this to our attention, it was said that it was going to be kind of like a professor watch list in a sort of way. And I think that might be the best way to go about it with the professor watch list. The professors don't have to sign a contract that, you know, they're going to be on this website. Students put this professor on the website, and I think that that would be a safer option of legality for us as well, and would give students more of a voice of, because honestly, as a property manager, I don't know if I'd want to put myself in that position, because kids can say some really bad things, even though it might not have necessarily been the property manager's fault.
Vice President Saruso.
Okay, point of order. I just wanted to clarify that in this part of the discussion, we should be talking about the amendment and not like the concept as a whole. So let's circle back to whether or not we want to add this specific amendment, and then we'll re-enter the conversation about the motion as a whole. Does that make sense? Okay.
Vice President, President Stiff. In light of that and what VP Jones has said, I think it would be a good idea to leave out the amendment for now, like we said, just to make sure that we can provide or come through and over promising. Vice President Saruso.
Okay, I think the other part that was confusing was can I see the motion, please? The use of the word investigation in the second to last, be it further resolved. And I see definitely where the confusion is in the terms investigation that you're talking about and the kind that says in here. This kind of investigation, to my knowledge, is referring to like an investigation in terms of exploring companies and exploring like what we would want this site to look like. So with that in mind, I think that it's being used in a different context. So yeah, I agree with what President Stiff says. I think that maybe the better solution here would be to fail this amendment, but then bring it up in that work group and talk about like what it would, like if that would be something that would be like a standard we would want to hold a third-party vendor to in that work group, is kind of what I'm thinking at this point, rather than like pass it here and then realize later that that's not exactly what we want. So that's the approach I'm going to be taking on this.
Senator Roberts.
That would be fine. I would say then, when we do indeed fail this amendment in a moment, that you potentially add language to encourage that committee or commission to add that language in terms of when they talk about it in the committee itself.
Okay. President Flynn. Oh, sorry. I am so sorry. Senator Flynn.
Dang.
Hey, RHA
I don't know what's
president.
going on with me today.
Might I suggest that Senator Roberts withdraw his amendment?
Would you like to withdraw your amendment?
Why, yes, I would.
All right. Moving on, now we're going back to the discussion on our original motion. Do I have a question from Senator Saha?
Yes, I would put it into thought for everyone that like, once we're doing something like that, it's a good thing. I love the motion. But like, I agree with Senator Robert that we need to put some key to it, else it's like a resolution we passed, but it did not put an output to it. So like, I would recommend adding, like, you know, having a nonprofit organization on campus or through local bodies to actually work with us through HUD, which is Housing Urban Development, which actually does representation and takes care of bad landlords or bad management. And so we work with them, and that way we can show our needs, like, hey, this is the issues we are facing, and involve them in the process. And let them handle the legal aspects of it. That way we do not cross the legal boundaries. So like, that's the general idea of it, and like, you know, we can write it, draft it in a motion, set up a committee for it or something like that, but like, that's the general idea I want to throw out.
President Stiff. I want to make clear that I am not willing to just add in a nonprofit to this, because this is, again, a student-centered, student-led website that we are looking to move forward with. And again, the laws are the laws, right? So, but so far, have the laws protected us students so far? Has everybody been satisfied with their housing so far? Okay. With that being said, again, I'm going to vote to move this resolution forward. I understand that, you know, some off-campus properties might not choose to sign with this site. It would be in their best interest, but they might not choose to. And so again, this resolution is just the start of a process. It's the start of a work group that is choosing to investigate a site that could provide all of these provisions for us. But yeah.
Senator Colson?
I just point to clarification, just in general. So you moved to move it forward, right? Sorry, this is a question in general. Does that mean that, so this motion is being sent through to start like kind of a committee group to work on it, just to clarify?
President Stiff?
Yes, so this resolution is the start, requesting the start of a work group task force that can be convened with students and with the help of VP Jones to find a staff member to help chair it.
I'm going to move to, I'm so sorry, I cannot see the name on your platform.
Kruger.
Senator Kruger.
Yes, so I was wondering, is this intended to be something that only students can view or comment on, or can anybody view and comment on it?
President Stiff?
So this, again, the minimum is 3 students that can be on it, but I would be open to, you know, adding a provision whereas faculty would be on it. But again, we're just looking for a faculty or staff member to chair it. So are you talking about like just centers specifically, or like students as a whole?
I was actually asking about the website in general. Like, is this going to be something that's only accessible to students, or can anybody like view it? Can anybody make reviews on it?
President Stiff?
Students.
Okay.
Senator Hawk?
So I just wanted to talk something more about what Senator Carlson had said. Just an idea, because we have websites like Rate My Professor, where the professors have not signed a contract with the website and doing it, but students actually can go into that and write things like, maybe I don't like the professor, we can see like the professors can get 1, 2, 3, or 4, or even the best of 5. Grading on their hardness and how they grade and everything like that. Couldn't we add something like that to the website? Just to make it nothing like, okay, fine, the people who are already on the contract can be there, but the ones who are not on the contract can also be there. Just so that everybody would know something, because just thinking about it, if I was a property manager, by seeing something like, yes, something is, they're talking trash about something that we're doing, but at the same time, they might not be willing to go forward with the contract. Maybe after a year or something, we would be losing people over there, but having it like an open place where students can go up there, having all of them listed down and saying things like that would be more beneficial to us, just a point, like an option to put in.
John?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is where I put my advisor hat on. And one of the things, you ask great questions. You absolutely ask great questions. But what you're getting into are things that would be great for this committee to be talking about. So what this motion is what puts that gets the gears turning, that gets the wheels spinning on that committee. So I would suggest that your conversation focus on the merit of forming that committee that can be talking about this stuff, rather than delving into the details right now that not everybody's gonna have an answer to. So that's what I would be thinking about, big picture. If you wanna see the committee be able to do that work, that's what you're voting on now.
Thank you. Senator, do you not want to speak?
I think he actually covered it.
Sounds good. Senator Flynn.
So I'm gonna motion to amend, but I'm thinking this is a relatively safe thing to do. The whereas student basic needs encompass safe housing, I want to expand that definition, so it says afterwards, comma, including but not limited to safety from sexual, physical, emotional, and financial abuse.
Second.
Vice President Sawerso.
Point of information, can you repeat that?
So it's just gonna be attached to the whereas student basic needs encompass safe housing. There's gonna be a comma, and then it says, including but not limited to safety from sexual, comma, physical, comma, emotional, comma, and physical abuse.
Thank
Or
you.
financial abuse, I'm sorry. The last one was financial.
Did we get that? I would request senators to wait for me to ask for a second. Now that we're clear on the amendment, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Moving to the question period for this amendment. Do we have any questions on this? Do we have any questions on this amendment? Any questions on this amendment? No questions. I'm going to open the floor for discussion on this amendment. Vice President Sawerso.
So I'm a little confused on the placement of this amendment. Not because I disagree that students deserve safety from sexual, physical, financial, and emotional abuse. They absolutely do. But the language is a little bit confusing to me in terms of how it fits into the expectations we hold of properties. Because like, if a person experiences, say, physical abuse inside a unit at a property, are we gonna hold the property liable? That doesn't really make sense to me. And so I think what you're getting at is defining safety, but it's a little bit confusing in that like, students do deserve that, but because the motion is about what we're expecting of properties, I'm a little confused about that.
Senator Flynn.
The reason I wanted to specifically spell those out is if a landlord has repeated issues with a specific tenant infringing on others' safety, that if the landlord doesn't take action, that it's something that should be considered as negative on their part.
Senator Hashimoto.
Yeah, I actually would like to add up to what the Vice President said. I just wonder if there is any, for example, the state law or federal law, like remarking about the landowner, how much they are responsible for the individual cases, because otherwise it's going to be a little bit unfair for the landowner from my from my viewpoint, like something happened, but do they really have any the responsibility over which kind of cases and like how much they are responsible for the individual cases the units.
President Step. Senator Flynn, I agree that sexual, physical, emotional, and financial abuse is included in what we would consider safe. But on this whereas clause, it was just basically talking about what basic needs includes, not like safe housing includes, just to clarify that.
Vice President Sawerso.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I guess to me, I'm going to be voting against it because it feels like that's criminal law that it falls under, not necessarily the jurisdiction of this website. And so at best, I think it's a little bit redundant of criminal law, and at worst, it gets confusing about where the liability lays. But I like the intent. So my idea would be, in that committee, I would encourage them to, with that committee, to come up with a definition of what safe housing looks like, and make sure that that is a that's a priority in what the RFP process is looking for. I think that's maybe a compromise there, but I'll be voting against a specific amendment.
Senator Flynn.
So what I'm seeking with this amendment is to have these considerations specifically in mind, considering the safety of off-campus housing versus other housing areas, and that special consideration needs to be given particularly toward the people who are like repeat offenders of, I guess the way I can put it is, like the university gets word that a student repeatedly that there's one specific person in an apartment that's causing problems with students on campus. And because they are in an off-campus apartment, there's not a way that the university can lean on the specific landlord to, for lack of a better term, deal with it. And if that's something that we should investigate, and that's kind of why I wanted to specifically spell out, particularly the sexual abuse definition.
Senator Hawks.
I just want to answer something similar to that. When we sign a contract with off-campus housing, sometimes we do see on our contract, or when we're talking to the property management, that if you get this number of police calls or this number of complaints against you, we will have a fine. For example, just an example, when a person maybe living in so-and-so property has maybe 3 police calls or maybe 3 complaints against them, they get a fine of about $200 to $250. It does not really need to be on our clause because it's something that a property does themselves. And putting that on our clause might end up being something that we're trying to impose, whereas that's already there in most of the apartment complexes. Because as far as I know, is that when there's like complaints like this on and off a property, it becomes like a negative mark of the property themselves as well. So I, to be honest, don't know where we could put in that clause, if that makes more sense.
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna have President Stiff.
Again, I'm hearing what you guys are saying. I will be moving just to fill this amendment simply again because I wanted to kind of, again, student basic needs is what the focus of this whereas clause is. And what you had said, Senator Hawk and Senator Flynn, is something I think the committee could dive further into and not for discussion on this specific amendment or this specific resolution.
Did you not want to speak, Senator?
Sure.
Awesome. Senator Kruger, did you want to speak?
All I was gonna say was that I can kind of understand the physical and financial aspect of this amendment, because physical safety being as the basic need that like they have proper locks on their doors and they have just a place to live that is physically stable, and financially being that the landlord is not financially abusing them, making them pay more than where their living is worth. I don't really understand the emotional and sexual basic needs safety, because obviously that's important, but I don't see how the landlord can really do anything about that in terms of their position with,
All right, I'm gonna have Senator Swankut from Zoom.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank God. Okay. I was going to add, actually, very similar to what Senator Kruger was just talking about. This seems like kind of an extension of the conversation that we were having in, is it really loud? Sorry.
Yeah.
I also talk really loud, so.
You're good. Go on.
Is it better?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Am I not deafening you? Perfect. This seems like an extension of in the Student Affairs Committee last year, one of the big projects was getting off-campus properties to have cameras. This seems to be kind of an extension of that conversation. So I would say I would vote for something that is specifically talking about financial and physical safety, because there have been instances of, you know, cars being vandalized and stuff like that property managers haven't been taking care of. Some of those like systemic issues of not having cameras monitoring like what's going on in their parking lots and stuff like that. So I just want to build off of what Senator Kruger was talking about, that I would vote for an amendment that talked about physical and financial safety at this point, but on the other two, I'm not sure what we could do. I'm not offering an amendment to an amendment, I'm just saying that I would, if someone wants to propose that.
Senator Nowak?
Yeah, so I think that given the lens that what we are talking about right now, that we are talking about simply establishing a committee in order to answer these questions and to look into these things, I still feel that it is extremely important to institute this phraseology, simply because when we think about the concepts of safety, oftentimes we think of physical safety and maybe potentially our sexual safety. Never do we usually think about emotional or financial safety. However, financial safety is the one that I feel is most at risk with a lot of these off-campus housing situations. So I feel that it is paramount that we include that inside of this resolution to be stated directly in the conversation within the committee.
Vice President Saverso?
I motion to move previous question.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. So we're gonna move to our
So now we'll
vote on the amendment.
Nope, so we're gonna vote on whether or not to stop talking.
Okay,
So
awesome.
you need a 2/3 on this.
Thank you. So, all in favor to move to previous motion? Okay. It's and Brian. So, on a vote from 26 to 0, this motion is passed. We're gonna now end discussion and move on to voting, to our discussion for the original motion. Nope.
Nope, so
I'm sorry, give me 1 second.
You're good. So we voted on whether or not we were ready to take a vote on this amendment. So now we're gonna vote on this.
On the original amendment, yeah, on the original motion. Awesome. Now we're gonna vote on the original motion that was.
It's okay, you're good.
The original.
We're gonna vote
motion.
on this amendment.
Okay. Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
You're good, you got it.
Now we're gonna vote on this amendment. All in favor? Please raise your placards. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. All against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All abstain?
Did we get Brian?
All right, so on the vote of 19 to 6 to 0, this amendment is passed. Now we're gonna move on to our original motion, which was emailed out, the original one. Do we have, with this amendment included, do we have a question from Senator Roberts?
I have a motion for an amendment. I'm sorry. Just for a forewarning of why I want to give the committee the power of investigation. So be it further resolved that the commission, task force, or work group have the power of investigation of a property management group when they cause harm to its tenants, on whether a property management has the right to be advertised to the students of Minnesota State University, Mankato. That would go, after the first be it resolved and before the second be it further resolved.
Do I have a second? Seeing as we have no second, we're gonna move to discussion again. Do I have a question from Senator Saha?
It's an amendment. It's an amendment to the second bid for the resolve. I would like to add after the 3 student representatives.
Sorry, can you speak that?
Yes, definitely. Like it's going to be in the under the bid for the result, the second portion of it. The group will include no less than 3 student representatives as well as the campus student attorney in that committee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a question, if that's okay. Just to you.
State that.
I have a class at 6 o'clock. Is it going to be okay if I leave?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're gonna open the floor for questions on this amendment. Do I have any questions on this amendment? I would like a senator to yield to John.
I'll yield.
John, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just from a logistical standpoint, that's not something that's included in the student attorney contract. We could request them to serve on it or just provide some input if there would be questions to answer from a legal standpoint, but it can't necessarily be mandated, so, okay.
Vice President Saverso?
I'd like to motion for a 3-minute recess so that we could figure out these amendments privately and then come back together as a Senate and be more efficient with our time.
Do I have a second? All right, we have a 3-minute recess.
Wait, we still have to vote. So say any dissent.
Any dissent to the 3-minute recess? Any dissent? Any dissent? Seeing as no dissent, we're gonna have a 3-minute recess.
Spicy. Drop another
I know. Let me put it on a recess. I have class.
Okay, oh yeah, you can't leave until the end of the recess then. Because like, what you could do is just immediately after the recess yield your amendment, or like have somebody.
I can join you. I'll join on the conversation. Sorry, like, I think that's actually, if you wanted to amend it, change something else. I was trying to get at, so like, these conditions, that can be done.
Absolutely. That's the point of the committee. That's the point of the committee.
I'm doing very good.
So what you first do then,
We're in favor, we have 55 seconds left. We're in favor of tabling this
I was like, wait, I don't know. That's like my
I'm actually reading through, so we can have this conversation in private, make sure everybody knows the details.
I like that.
So we're gonna motion to table
Robert, all of you guys, we're talking about we've also what people are interested yeah, because again, with that, they're way too busy with the project. I don't want to put a
That was the other thing I was going to talk about too. Because we really love you guys because we want people to ask you over something like we don't want it to be just a service for me, but like we want people ask why we said this because kind of ask a little bit because that's what we
All right, everyone, the time for recess is over. I'm going to request everyone to take their seats. John, thank you. Which is nice to extend the recess. All right. Vice President Somerville.
Extend recess for 2 minutes.
Do I have a second? From Senator Flynn. We're going to go ahead and vote on this motion now. So all in favor to extend the recess for another 2 minutes?
Yes.
All against? Abstain? So on a vote for all to none, we are going to extend the recess for another 2 minutes.
Like, switch the things, it's like a jump camera, and just a debate on that would turn to what I want, if you can have like a news action, maybe you decide that you can have a straightforward, figure out it's like a thumbs
Hello again. How's it going? I'm curious.
I'm campus coordinator.
Campus coordinator, that's what it is.
But we were basically voting on whether or not to move forward because we're not voting on anything. Everyone on everyone on the exec board for 2020, we all wear the same committees. Like we all just use.
I specifically just
Majority of us do all the same things. So yeah,
It goes, it's very similar to, oh, did you want to try that?
Oh.
Okay. It's very similar to
Yeah. Well, it's a national, non-profit organization, but they have chapters at colleges. If that makes sense. Yeah, so it's generally conservative, we don't speak on social issues, it's economic issues. Free speech, that kind of thing, so.
We're trying to minimize the events right now, and we're trying to remember that that's the role of the commission that we're trying to.
Yeah, that's what he's actually
looking to try and try about this. Are you going? Are you going?
That's where it's a little gray, because there are a lot of things they say they're not social issues, so we have to check it.
All right, everyone, please take your seats. The time for recess is over. I am going to start with who would like to speak first? Does he want to go first? All right, I'm going to start with The motion is over, sorry, the recess is over, oh my God.
I wish the motion was
The recess is over, so let's get back to our meeting. I'm gonna start with President Stiff.
Okay, just to clarify again, you all, this resolution is just to establish the task force. In the task force work group, whatever, they can discuss all of these things, but without passing this resolution first, there's gonna be no discussion at all. So again, I will be voting in favor of it. My suggestion is that if you guys are in favor, again, of looking at how we can kind of accomplish some better resolutions as far as off-campus housing, my suggestion would be to pass it. But adding anything else to it might not be as concise, or we might end up passing something or adding an amendment that is not possible. So again, this resolution is just to establish a task force that can look at all the concerns, obviously all the questions. All that's coming up right now shows that there needs to be a larger conversation, but without this resolution passing first, there will be no conversation to be had.
All right, Vice President Sawerso.
Yeah, building off that, there's been a lot of concern about making sure that this motion, that the language is strong enough that we're like, I think the phrase adding teeth has been thrown around. And I just want to build off what President Stiff has said and say, if you want to add teeth, join the commission and bring up those discussions there. Bring up the things that you want this site to have or not have, and bring them up as things to look for in vendors, not here before we box ourselves in and then realize, oh wait, no company offers that. And so then we're stuck in the same spot. So that's why, I mean, that's where I'm at now. I'm a little hesitant to pass it with the current language because I'm afraid that like we don't have jurisdiction over what we just added, but like President Stiff said, I would rather have something move forward than nothing. So I'm gonna vote in favor of it, but let's just keep in mind that we're voting to further the conversation, not to figure out exactly what it looks like in this session.
Senator Nowak.
Call to question.
Do I have a second? Second. All right. Now, do we have a dissent? Senator Roberts.
So, because he dissents, now we're gonna go, it's not gonna be unanimous, so now you call for all in favor of moving question, or opposed, or abstain.
All right, now we're gonna
Oh,
vote.
I apologize. I misunderstood. I thought we were talking about previous question. I apologize.
So you want to take back your dissent?
I take it back to dissent.
All right.
I apologize. I misunderstood.
Okay. So we're going to continue with the discussion.
So, no. What, just ask if there's any dissent on moving previous question.
Is there any dissent on moving to previous question? Any dissent? Any dissent? No dissent. Now we're gonna go ahead and vote on the motion, correct? Finally. All in favor of passing the motion? 1, 2.
Madam Speaker, we did not vote on the amendment. We have a second on the amendment. So point of order would be like voting on the amendment.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
He had it a whole.
That's right, we can close the discussion before the recess.
And he's not here.
We almost just passed a motion unanimously.
And so there's technically an amendment on the floor. And so.
Okay, so.
That was our bad. And so, as long as you move through this question and there was discussion before we get about amendment. So what we're gonna do is just. Yeah, but so what you're gonna say is because there was a amendment, we're gonna make that decision. And then we're gonna have the senator. I'm gonna ask John. John is not here. Was this the? Yeah, and somebody did second it, and then John said that it's not. and then we would call on Senator Saha so before we do that, since John's left, I'm gonna tell you. I have a form of planning members not going up.
All right, guys, since we went into recess and did not talk on our live amendment, we're gonna move back to the discussion of the amendment that Senator Saha introduced. Senator Saha, I'm gonna have you talk about it.
I'm sorry everyone, I had to leave the meeting. I'm in a car right now going for it. So like I would speak shortly about it. Like, you know, the main idea behind the concept of it is like having the campus attorney as an advisor role. Like they do not have to sit on it, but we can get recommendations from him so that, like, you know, we do not overreach, as well as the students' needs are being heard and proper due process is being done to take care of the needs of the students.
Did we have a second for Senator Saha? Robert, would you like to talk on your second?
Yeah, so I think it would be really nice to have them there. I think that their advice and knowledge would provide significant improvements to how this commission and workforce or working group would be able to handle actions on this committee. So I think that it would just be really useful to have them there.
Senator Carlson. I agree with this as well, just because I think a lot of the questions we have had about this in general has been legality issues. So if we have an advisor to advise us through what we can and cannot do, I think that would be a great thing to add.
Senator Chimizi? Never mind. President Sir?
Again, back to what John said, I think it would be nice to have an attorney, but that's not in their contract with the university. So we cannot add the fact that we cannot add that an attorney will be present at this committee without that being in their contractual obligations. We're then requiring something of them that they did not sign up to do. So we can ask, again, as John said, we can ask if they would like to be a part of the committee, but I don't think it is right to require that of them.
Senator Roberts?
Can I amend the amendment to
Yes.
requests at the beginning of it?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Alright. Now we're gonna move into the question period for the amended amendment. Senator Flynn.
Call the question.
Second. Oh, I did it again too soon. I'm sorry.
No, because they did it during discussion. So
Yeah.
ask if there's any questions.
Yeah. Is there any questions on the amendment of the amended amendment? Okay,
Seeing no questions. Now we
No
have a discussion.
questions. Moving on to the discussion.
Now make your motion.
Now make your motion.
Call the question.
Great. So now ask if there's a second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Ask if there's a second.
Is there any dissent? Any dissent? Any dissent? No dissent. Now we're gonna vote on the new motion.
Yep.
All in favor?
Point of information,
Yes.
this is not passing the amendment, this is amending the amendment.
Right. So that's
You're voting on the amending the amendment.
This does not actually add it to the document.
Yeah. So
we're
we're
voting on the word request. That is what you're doing. Do you want the word request, or do you want to leave the language as it is? That's what you're
Vote
voting.
yes on this and no on the actual inclusion.
So that we're gonna vote on if we wanna put request in our motion, amend our motion to put request word, because since it's not in the contract for the attorney to act as the advisor for this committee. So we're gonna go ahead and vote on the amendment on the amendment. All in favor? 1, 2, 20. All right. So on a vote of 2, Any opposed? None. Any abstain? So on a vote of 20 to 0, we passed the motion to add the word request into the motion for attorney to act as an advisor. Now we're going to move back to our amendment. Do we have any discussion points left for the amended amendment? Senator Flynn.
A motion to call the question.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, now we're gonna vote. Okay, is there any dissent for moving to previous question? Any dissent? Any dissent? Seen as no dissent, now we're gonna go ahead and vote on our amended amendment. Is anyone confused about the amended amendment? Senator Hashimoto.
Yeah, is it possible to clarify that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Point of clarification, I'm going to move that to President Stiff.
So now we're talking about adding in the word, or we did that, but now we're talking about requests. So instead of requiring the student government attorney to sit on this task force, we can now request that he does.
Is there any more questions or confusions about the amended amendment that we're going to vote on? All right, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor? All.
Aye.
So this is the. You're going to be voting. You're going to be voting. Okay.
Can you hold your placards high?
All opposed? All abstain? All right, on a vote of 21 to 1, this motion is passed.
So, well, the amendment.
Call the previous question.
So the amendment's passed, now we're back to discussion on the. So we're back in discussion now on the whole motion.
All right, now we have passed the amendment on the amendment, which is adding the request word for the attorney. Now moving back to our original motion. So the whole motion that was sent out with the amendment. Do we have any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Seeing as no questions, I'm going to open the floor for discussion. Senator Flynn.
Motion to call the question.
Do I have a second? I don't know why. All right, do I have a dissent? Any dissent? Any dissent? Seeing as no dissent, now we're going to go ahead and move to previous question, which means we're going to vote on the whole motion. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Senator Abiy, what would your vote be? Just want to make sure that he's aware that we're voting. All right, I'm going to. All oppose? All abstain? All right, so on a vote of 22 to 0 to 1, this motion is passed. Thank you for hanging in there. Moving on to old business. business. We do not have any old business for today. Moving on to announcements. Do we have any announcements? Any announcements? Vice President Sawerso.
I just want to say good job engaging in the process today, from Rick Straka's presentation to this very long process we just had. Like, it shows a lot that you guys have really come in and taken your job seriously and asked the hard questions. So, good work, team.
Yep. President Stiff.
Okay, y'all, so with this past resolution, we would now look to actually convening this task force work group at some point in the near future. So if you are interested possibly in serving, go ahead and email me.
Do we have any other announcements? I cannot see the face. Mark.
Just want to remind everybody, homecoming's next week. It's a big week for campuses to enjoy each other's company, family, friends, alums coming back as well. The student events team and other people on campus have planned a lot of great activities. So let's say start at the beginning of the week. The bonfire and the pep rally is on Monday night. It's a good way to start. And there's a lot of other things, and I hope all the senators participate in a lot of the good activities.
Thank you. Senator Carlson?
I just want to add an announcement for homecoming as well. Turning Point USA is hosting an event on Tuesday. It's called Dunk a Conservative. So it's fun for both sides. If you don't like the right, you can go dunk them, and if you don't like the left, you can go have a good conversation. So that was the point of the event, to try to get everyone so we can come and have a conversation about politics and stuff. So that's going to be on Tuesday from 11 to 3 outside, and yeah.
Thank you. Do we have any other announcements? Senator Chimsey?
So next week, Monday, the International Business Club is having a meeting from 5 to 6 at Morris Hall 210. It'll be nice for everyone to show up and just come experience and see what we have to offer.
Thank you. Do we have any announcements? President Stiff?
Again, so from last night from the volleyball invite, we got these green bandanas for senators. Basically, you tie it around your purse or your backpack just to show your solidarity with mental health and to let another student know that they can come up to you for help if they need to do so. Along with that, we have these tags that have all the mental health resources on them. So if you're a senator, or if you haven't already got one, I know some senators got some last night, feel free to take one of these, or I can pass them out.
Do we have any other announcements? Any announcements? Any announcements? Seeing as no further announcements, I'm going to move on to roll call. Senator Swanton? Yes.
Here. Motion to waive the roll call?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any dissent? All right. We're going to not do the roll call. And I officially adjourn this meeting at 6:22 p.m.
Audrey, Jaden, Colin, you guys can go. We'll meet another day.
Well, thank you.
You're good? Wow. Oh, no, you can go. You're good.
I know that it was started. I think from 11 to noon and then after 1.
Yeah, I think you can.
So my first time here, there was